Welcome to News Laundry Chhota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
Welcome to News Laundry Hafta. I'm your host this week. This is Manisha Pande. Abhinandan is on leave. He's out for some important work, so I shall be doing the honors this week. We've had an incredibly exciting newsy week, so we hope to discuss all that happened. I'm going to quickly introduce the guests and then I'll go over the headlines. So, on our panel today, in-house, we have Anand Vardhan with us. Hi, Anand.
Hello.
We have Raman Kirpal.
Hi.
And we have a very special guest with us, Jayati Ghosh, who is a development economist. She's been with the JNU for about 35 years and currently you're with the University of Massachusetts. So you're joining us from where?
New Delhi.
From New Delhi. Okay. You are also one of the founders of the Economic Research Foundation, New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an exciting week, I think, for you also, tracking the Amritkal budget and everything that's happened. So I'm going to quickly do the headlines. And then I think we can jump right in and discuss a little bit about the budget and what we think about it, what we feel about it. There's plenty of reporting on the front page of newspapers today. Calling it fairly, I think most newspapers have given it a thumbs up. Financial Press, at least what I've read. So, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman unveiled the Union Budget. One of the big takeaways from the budget is that the centre has increased the capital investment outlay by 33% to rupees 10 lakh crore in the financial year 2023-24. The budget has announced a revised tax regime, which is probably, this was the most talked about aspect of the budget, that if you earn up to 7 lakh, you don't have to pay income tax anymore. And there are revised slabs. The thinking seems to be that the government wants most people to shift to the new regime of income tax and make it more alluring and attractive for people. The finance minister also announced various schemes in her budget speech. She mentioned a one-time small savings scheme for women, which is called the Mahila Samman Savings Certificate. Lots of developments on the Adani Hindenburg saga. I think chronologically, if we go Monday, it started with the Adani CFO saying that this is like Jallianwala Bagh. Basically said everyone's a traitor. Whoever's believing in the Hindenburg report are not, thinking correctly and they're not with India.
We are not Indians if we believe in Hindenburg.
And then by Tuesday, we got to know that a big fund in Abu Dhabi is going to subscribe for the FPO. By Wednesday, it was fully subscribed successfully and Adani's FPO. And there were some reports that an Indian Delhi-based industrialist, one from Bombay, and this Abu Dhabi firm got together and bailed him out, so to speak, quote unquote. And budget was announced, and then you saw a massive dip in most of the 7 listed entities of Adani. And by night yesterday, they said that we are scrapping the FPO and that it would not be morally correct to continue with it, looking at the stock market bloodbath. So that's there. And meanwhile, Ambani has taken over Adani when it comes to the Forbes list of billionaires. So that's that. Kerala journalist Siddiqui Kappan, who was booked by the Uttar Pradesh police under the UAPA, has been released today. He's got bail after, I think, 2.5 years of incarceration. Lots of stuff happening in NDTV. Nidhi Razdan resigned. Srinivasan Jain resigned. So there's lots of changes there. And NDTV stock, of course, is also coming down. And people are strangely linking it with resignations. I don't think that has anything to do with it.
You were repenting that you could not buy NDTV shares earlier. So why don't you buy it now? When it is
conflict of interest ho jayega. I think media companies, I should stay away. The Supreme Court on Friday issued a notice to the Election Commission against the order imposing a penalty on Bharatiya Janata Party for not publishing criminal antecedents of candidate who contested the 2020 Bihar Assembly elections. Family of 22-year-old Muslim man in Haryana's New district has claimed that he was killed by cow vigilantes on suspicion of smuggling cattle. Trial courts across the country passed 165 death sentences in 2022, the highest in a single year after 2000. Nitish Kumar has said that he would rather die than ally with BJP again. So maybe Anand can tell us about various possibilities. and how seriously we should take this statement. Leaders of several opposition parties joined Rahul Gandhi amid heavy snowfall in Srinagar and very dramatic pictures from the last day of Bharat Jodo Yatra. There's snow falling and Rahul Gandhi addressing the crowd. Not many people from the opposition joined, like this headline suggests, but the yatra has come to an end. Odisha Health Minister Naba Das died on Sunday, hours after he was critically injured as a police officer shot at him. The International Monetary Fund predicted that growth in Indian economy will slow down to 6.1% from 6.8% in the current financial year. A sessions court in Gujarat, Gandhinagar on Monday convicted religious leader Asaram for raping his disciple in 2013. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is going to hear 2 petitions challenging the centre's decision to block BBC documentary. It's going to be heard tomorrow. And Prime Minister Modi said that people should remain united even though several attempts are being made to divide the country. Sonam Wangchuk, a Ladakhi innovator who's been observing 5 days of fast, a climate fast, says that he's under house arrest. The reason why Wangchuk has undertaken this climate fast is because he wants to include Ladakh in the 6th schedule of the constitution, protecting it as a union territory from unchecked industrial and commercial expansion. So he's also made quite a lot of news. In terrible news from our neighborhood, a suicide bomber on Monday blew himself up inside a mosque in a highly fortified compound. More than 150 people were injured, and the death toll rose to 83. So that's really sad and very, very dramatic pictures we saw coming in from there.
No, you didn't say Pakistan. Just never saying never doesn't.
Did I? Or did I say Peshawar?
No,
okay.
Nothing. And we have many neighbors.
So the blast occurred in Peshawar, as Anand points, and we saw some really terrible images coming in from there.
Well, I think it's not an election budget in the sense that if you think elections are won on the economic conditions of the people, then this is not a budget you would have gone in for, because in fact, this will actually severely damage the economic conditions of about 80% of the country. On the other hand, yes, you're right. The English language papers that I have seen are all saying this is a budget for the common man. And I'm really intrigued as to who they think the common man is, because, this income tax relief that you mentioned, for example, 10 million Indians pay income tax out of a population of 1.3 billion. Okay? So it's not even 5% pay income tax of any kind. And it's a relief, even within that, a relatively small relief, but it's really not something that permeates to the people. By contrast, if you look at the patterns of spending, it's actually startling how much has shrunk. The rural development budget has shrunk in absolute terms. The outlay for the employment guarantee, which is now a lifeline for hundreds of millions of people, has shrunk by 1/3. The outlay on the food subsidy has shrunk by 1/3. The outlay on farmers, there was a lot of talk about PM Kisan and the money is going to be raised, but the budgetary outlay is all absolutely the same. So does it mean that the number of beneficiaries is being cut? Health budget it's not keeping pace with inflation. If you assume 6% inflation, I imagine it will be more, but it's not keeping pace with inflation. School education budget is just about keeping pace with inflation. Higher education is fallen in real terms. So the things that affect ordinary people are actually going to be significantly badly affected. So to me, it's really interesting that a government can do this in an election year. Obviously, it thinks it can win elections by other means, not by improving the economic conditions of the people.
This is, of course, the last full budget, before the elections. Also, the fact that, many countries are going through a very bad patch, and we are expecting some kind of, economic depression at the global level. So the government, it's not my viewpoint, it's just a question to you. The government says that they need to spend on the infra, and that is why they have cut on the social sector budget. So and the increase in capital investment is pretty high, which is 33%. So do you think it is going to keep us above the rest of the countries when the depression comes?
So first of all, I'm not so sure there will be a global recession. I think there will be a recession in developing countries, and India is among them, and we are pretty much as vulnerable as many other countries.
Like Jayati said, that this is 5% of people who pay income tax. But that was really the centerpiece of most of the media reportage around it. It was seen as something that would really help the government. So if it's not such a big deal, if it's not going to really affect anyone, then why would a government and a party like BJP that is very focused on winning elections do that? Why this middle class push? Why a focus on that? And what do you make of some of the key points of the budget?
Middle class also now includes the neo-middle class, as the political communication from the ruling party has been emphasizing, and also the new entrance to the economy too. So 7 lakhs slab is basically going to benefit, if it at all does, that the new entrance to the economy whose salary would come in that bracket, and they can the hope is that they can have more disposable income. Also the loan aided investments or purchase of consumer durables, and with the money saved from that exemption, if you can say, though that would not be a technically correct word.
It's very interesting, the point on and Jayati, maybe you could come in on this with targeted welfare schemes that you can announce before elections, and not just elections, during stress times also, like COVID. Just announcing, say, a PM Kisan Samriddhi Yojana, or putting in money directly into accounts, or free food, salt and oil that we saw, at least I saw during the Uttar Pradesh elections. So you can have this targeted sort of welfare schemes, and that maybe makes that sort of allows for governments to not really stress too much on with what they do with their expenditure during the budget. What do you think of that? And will that ultimately stress out?
Well, I think it's certainly true that increasingly governments don't care what they put in the budget. They do what they like, pretty much, during the course of the fiscal year. They don't feel bound by the commitments made in the budget, either in terms of how much they will spend in particular areas or what limits they will observe in terms of spending. So yes, that's true. Having said that, I think some of this discussion is venturing towards, thinking of certain things as freebies if they are given. Now, I want to make it quite clear that giving people their social and economic rights is not freebies. Giving free education, I think it's a human right. Giving access to health services, I think it's a human right. Giving access to food in a country, to me, it is a civilizational tragedy that half of our population goes to bed hungry. I don't think we should be allowing it. I think definitely we should be giving free food. We should be giving much more free food. So to me, this is meeting people's social and economic rights. It's not a freebie. Yes, there are freebies given, promises made before elections, like I'll give you a television set or something. Yes, those are freebies.
That would come under welfare. What we're talking about is really welfare schemes.
Well, if there are welfare schemes, I'm all for them. I don't think we have enough. We do some of the worst welfare in the world. The ILO ranked us, I think, in the bottom 30 of the 170 countries they looked at in terms of our social protection during the pandemic. So we don't do welfare. We make a big noise at the middle class. Let me put it this way. The people who populated the front pages of today's English language press, they make a big noise whenever they see anything going to, relatively speaking, the bottom half of the population. But we actually are very bad in terms of welfare. We don't do a good job in providing welfare.
In fact, if the economy is driving this country's politics, so I think this government should have lost by now, because
yes, I agree with you.
if you see the Manrega, 18,000 crore rupees is spending of the previous 18,000 crore. That's the figure which has come out from the government only, and they haven't given it to the states, and people who have already worked in the field, they haven't got their money. So if the economy is really running the politics, this government would have lost. I think something else is running this country.
Absolutely.
Now. Despite the Hindenburg report, when I look at the market, I think the market punters, they knew about Adani. They knew it all this. Why I'm saying this? Because even Hindenburg report has been quoting mostly from the government sources, from SEBI. SEBI has had made a report on Hinden. DRI had made a report on Hinden.
On Adani.
Okay, on Adani. So all these Hinden has quoted, from the official sources, and I believe now even the market people who are the stock guys, they knew about it. Why? Because just 1% of the mutual fund is invested in Adani. So that is why when the Adani fell down, when his stocks are falling like hell, the people who have invested in MF, in mutual funds, they haven't lost much. Only because only 1% of MF. Yes, LIC had invested a lot, SBI had invested a lot, so they have lost heavily.
Even analysts were saying this, that, this is nothing new in this report. A lot of it we know. So I think it really took a while for things to really kind of unravel. I think within that 1 week, and then the FPO subscription, and then I think Forbes report today.
I said it last time also that this Hindenburg, you will not be able to ignore it, because we thought since LIC had spent, SBI has spent, so the government will ensure that Adani does not fall. So fine, but having said that, you cannot ignore Hindenburg. Because the report is so logical. If you just read it, I'm trying to read it cover to cover. I've gone through most of it, but still I think 30-40 pages are left, and I'm still reading it, and it is very, very logical, and they are quoting the official sources. It is very well documented. And now the FPO, scrapping of FPO, the another story which has come out in Forbes today is again quite revealing. Because the Forbes is claiming that two of the companies, the shell companies of Adani, had invested in FPO, and both of these, companies have been, mentioned in Hindenburg report. So Forbes has further. I mean, maybe this could be the reason of scrapping FPO.
Go ahead, and then I'll come to Anand. Yeah.
No. The argument, in fact, is that it was done on purpose to somehow save face, to say that, yes, we were oversubscribed, in the knowledge that this money will be returned, and that this was the basis on which they also got the so-called high wealthy individuals in India to come in for that. But I think the other serious matter is that 50% of their borrowing, the dollar borrowing, is in bonds in the global market. And that's a lot. And that is going to be something that they can't ignore. And they can't throw the enforcement directorate at it, or send, different kinds of, they can't do the things they do in India to dissenters. So they will, I think our regulatory system is going to be forced to respond. And it will be harder for not just Adani, but all kinds of related groups to actually raise money in the markets. That's also, but remember, he owns too much of our assets now. He's the major beneficiary of privatization. 32 airports overnight, all kinds of mining leases overnight, all kinds of things. I mean, he actually owns far too much of the economy now.
In fact, there's an interesting piece in Bloomberg which said that it's not that he's too big to fall, but he's too unique to fall, in that sense that his story is intrinsically linked to the India growth story, precisely because of what Jayati is saying, the kind of...
All of you listening in, the Chhota Hafta, do subscribe so you can listen to the entire Hafta. We will see you again next week with the Hafta. Till then, subscribe, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Thank you. Goodbye.
All the News Laundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to News Laundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sun liya Afrika, mufat khoro. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free. All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.